or with people who from time to time, like all of us, are half-hearted in our commitment? What are you offering God? I mean, when you say, oh, I want to give my life to the Lord, what is it you're giving? An unspotted, unblemished, holy, pure, and total devotion? For that alone, notice it, is acceptable unto God. The rest is not. The rest is not. Are you like the people in Malachi? The Lord, through the prophet Malachi, said, you offer polluted flesh upon the altar. You know what you're bringing? Instead of bringing the best you have, you're bringing the rotten meat. You're bringing me a rotted carcass. You don't want to bring me a good one. It may have been that they were actually picking up a dead animal and bringing it rather than bringing the best of their flock. You're offering the blind to sacrifice. You're giving me a blind or a lame or a sick or a maimed animal. He says, would you offer that to the governor when you go to pay your taxes? Not on your life, but you're offering it to God. Will you do out of fear what you will not do for God out of love? Only a holy sacrifice is acceptable to God. The word acceptable means well-pleasing, satisfactory. God is not satisfied with anything less than that. Not satisfied. With the sacrifices of total commitment, of purity, God is satisfied. To do good, Hebrews 13:16 says, to share, forget not, for with such sacrifices God is satisfied. With goodness, with virtue, with generosity. That pleases God. He's satisfied then when we offer our bodies totally, holy, set apart, pure, undefiled. And this is, notice at the end of verse 1, this is your spiritual worship. The word service or worship is latreia. It is used in the Septuagint, which is the Old Testament Greek text, to speak of the worship of God according to the Levitical law. And again, we're talking still about that priestly kind of language of sacrifice. The priests came to worship, and that's the word used for worship in the Old Testament. And here it's still worship. You come to worship God with an offering. What are you bringing him? Are you bringing him a defiled carcass? Are you saying, oh yes, Lord, I give you myself in the midst of all your defilement, of all your sin, of all the garbage in your life? Maybe it's a lot, maybe it's a little, but either way, you're not unspotted. God only accepts a holy sacrifice. The word latreia is also used in Hebrews 9:6 to refer to the priests who performed the service in the temple, the sacred service. And here it is used of the believer priest offering up his body in consecrated sacrifice to God. And this worship, it says, is, some of your Bibles say reasonable. The word is logikos, from which we get the word logic. It is reasonable. That's a fair translation. It is intelligent. The idea is, though, that it is of the reason. It is of the inner man rather than of the outer man. In other words, in the Old Testament, they offered a dead sacrifice, which was external service. You understand? Now he is saying, offer me a living sacrifice, which is an act of internal worship, or spiritual rather than physical. He's not asking for a mechanical outward form, but an intelligent, heartfelt, consecrated devotion to God. Here is the true worship of living sacrifice, of which dead ones were only shadows. The true spiritual, intelligent, rational worship of giving our bodies and all they do to God in holy consecration. And so I say to you, real worship is not elaborate prayers. It is not liturgy. It is not ritual. It is not candles, robes, stained glass, Bach music. Real worship is not feeling spiritual goosebumps in a church service. Real worship is right here. The intelligent, spiritual act of giving to God my body in all of its expressions, holy, set apart unto him. That's what God wants. God isn't looking for your talent, folks. God isn't looking for your innate gifts of leadership. God is looking for you to give yourself. So the Christian who would offer himself as a living sacrifice begins with the offering of his soul and then the offering of his body. There are two more, and we need only look at them briefly to sum the message up. The third one is the mind must be given to God. And verse 2 says, be not conformed to this world. Oh, could we say so much about that? But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And here he tells us that one of the very basic keys to being able with your soul to offer your body is to be sure that your mind has been what? Renewed. Renewed. The mind must be presented for renewal. You know what? It is in the mind that our new nature and our humanness find their mix, right? It is in the mind that we make choices as to whether we will express that new man in holiness or allow our flesh to act in unholiness. So if the soul is to present the body, the mind must be renewed. And notice how he presents it with a negative and then a positive. Be not conformed to this aion, not cosmos, not world, but age, to this age. The age is the fallen, unredeemed philosophy of life. Trench says it so well. The floating mass of thoughts, opinions, maxims, speculations, hopes, impulses, aims, aspirations at any time current in the world. The whole pile of the world's stuff. Be not conformed to that. The Germans used to call it the Zeitgeist, the spirit of the age, of which Satan, of course, is the prince and ruler. Believe me, the world is an instrument of Satan. Oh, it's an instrument of Satan to promote his goals and his ends and his ambitions. And you can see it. You can see it everywhere. You can see how the spirit of this age is a spirit of pride, a spirit of boastfulness, a spirit of almost ugly ego. We see it in professional athletes all the time, don't we? If you haven't seen it lately, watch a tennis match. The spirit of the age. I read an article written by a columnist in the Chicago Tribune. He said there was a radio station in San Antonio that decided to give an evening with the Motley Crue, which is a heavy metal hard rock group. And so they had a contest on their radio station, KISS-FM in San Antonio. And a teenager was to write, I will do the following for the privilege of spending an evening with the Motley Crue. Your mind wouldn't begin to conceive of what 13 to 17-year-old kids wrote. I read about 15 different letters, such as, I would shave their bodies and where they bled, I would suck the blood out of them. That was a minimal, low-key response. Frightening spirit of this age. Frightening. It comes through the music, it comes through the movies, it comes through the media, it comes at us from everywhere. And we are called by the Spirit of God through the Apostle Paul here to not allow ourselves to become conformed to the purposes and ethics and standards and moralities of our time, which are satanic. Remember what John said, the whole world lies in the lap of the evil one, 1 John 5:19. Be not conformed. Stop, literally it says, stop allowing yourselves to be fashioned like this evil age. Stop allowing it to happen. The assumption is that it's what? It's happening. Stop it. Call a halt to it. Don't sit there and allow it to be done. That's the point. The word here is a tremendous verb. I don't like to confuse you with Greek terms, but I want you to sense this word. It's the word sun schematizo. Schema, scheme. And schematizo refers, listen carefully, to the act of assuming an outward expression that does not come from within. Putting on an act. Great word. Masquerading. And what he is saying is, look, Don't masquerade as if you belong to the world. You see it? Don't masquerade wearing the spirit of the age, which is inconsistent with what's really in you. See that? And the addition of the prefix conjunction soon, S-U-N, has the idea that the expression is patterned after a definite model. Don't pattern yourself. Don't allow yourself to be continually patterned after the world and the spirit of the age, which is not connected to what you are on the inside. Don't